All right. New players and maybe people who haven't played a ton of PoE 1, you are being lied to, deceived, tricked, bamboozled, schmeckeldorfed. You probably think everything's really expensive, right? Look, a gold rim, a typical starting item for leveling a new character is one divine. Everything's divines. Well, actually, no, it's not. We have to do this because the trade site is messed up. The trade site is manually adjusted by GGG for the different currency prices. So right now the trade site thinks a divine is like 5 exalts, when in reality it's like 80. So it's getting listed way too early. So you have to go down here, trade filters, buyout price, exalted orb, search like that. You can disregard the first few listings because they won't respond. Scroll down, boom. Goldrim is 15 exalts. Now I hear a lot of people say like, even items with just basic resistance on them, like rare items, are hard to find. Well, let's see. So if I search normally, yep, okay. I just search a ring with looking for tri-res, right? Look at that, they're 1 div instantly. But if you go and click exalted, now they're 10C. Really, people say it's impossible to get good gear. It is incredibly, incredibly cheap to get a full set of good gear. You can be res capped with like 20 exalts if you search properly. It is really, really, the barrier to entry for clearing tier 15s is extremely low. You spend basically no money on items because so many rares drop right now, and with the tier system and so many exalts and people slam everything, it's good rares are really, really cheap. Now, really good rares are really expensive, but you don't need really good rares. You only need what you need to get your character started and then start farming more currency. For example, this helmet, which has 170 life, rarity, stats, res, and energy shield. I corrupted it myself, so that didn't factor into the cost I bought it. I bought this helmet for like 20 exalts. Like you don't need to spend a shit ton of money on rarity either. Rarity gear, unless you need it to be perfect, which you don't, is really not that bad. It has life and mana, which mana is an extremely sought after stat. Look at this. And then you should learn how to use things like this too. The count function is probably the most useful of all the functions, and you can sort by all the different resistances. And you search by 1, or however many you want to be on the item, and it will search for all of these, but it'll match. If it just matches one of them, it'll show up. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Rarity gear is cheap. It's super cheap. Look at this. This gear is absolutely crazy. And it's like 2 exalts max. It is absolutely, utterly crazy. Gear is not expensive. You are not locked out of trading. But the downside of all this is actually selling things is kind of hard. So most of your currency earlier is just going to be from your raw drops, which you need to get the like an initial amount of rarity, which, I mean, you should have a few exalts by the time you get to maps. So the first thing you should do when you get to maps is spend 2 of your exalts and get 43% increased rarity. And maybe spend like 5 to get to 100%. Because the difference between 0 and 100 is absolutely massive. But by no means is gear expensive. Gear is super cheap. To even get a full set of base rarity gear, it is just crazy cheap. Pretty much all my gear, except for the uniques, is really cheap. This thing, like 20 exalts. This thing, I actually paid a little bit more for this one because this one's a little bit better, but I needed the low stats on this, so I paid a premium. But so this one I think was like, I don't know, like a divine, but that was only because I couldn't buy a higher stat one because I'm getting minimum stats for my character, so it's like more min-maxed. Not like super min-maxed, but enough that I don't want to waste stats. But anyways, the only thing that's like really expensive 100% of the time is getting a good piece of jewelry. Like my rings are actually fairly expensive. Getting rarity and a bunch of res on a ring is pretty expensive. And amulet probably too. But overall, starter gear is super OP and super cheap.